So good evening, a whole bunch of you. I think there's 200 massive fans of Evan Williams and Francesca Cumani, and not me. So I'm going to say a very quick hi to everyone. I've got a tiny little script here. Francesca probably needs no introduction, really. The host of ITV Racing, but much more importantly, the big part of Old Gold Racing. She does lots of advisory stuff for us and helping us buy horses, and is also our ambassador and general all-round good person. And we make films, which we're doing tomorrow. Evan Williams is, what do we say about Welsh trainers? I think probably, what do we say about the most Welsh trainer on our books? It's fantastic. And also great point-to-point rider. Was a great rival of my great friend and Griffith, actually, we talked about it. So I'm going to leave them to really talk about the horse and the Henry Box Brown and what's going to happen and all the intelligent stuff. I'm going to welcome you all here. I've introduced you. The format's going to kind of be, we're going to start off with an introduction and getting to know Evan. We're going to move into Evan's ideas for Cheltenham and Aintree and a horse to follow and aspirations and that kind of thing. Then a bit later, we'll talk about Henry Box Brown and what's going to happen there and how excited we are for, looks like, the Monday of Cheltenham week in March. And then throw some questions over, which you'll be able to type in, and we will pass them to Francesca to ask Evan, or if there's a Francesca, to Francesca, and et cetera, et cetera. So the only two other little sort of parish announcements that I'd like to make before I hand over is that on the Monday, March the 7th, we've got a Cheltenham preview on Zoom with Francesca and with Paul Nichols and with Venetia.
You organised it.
Yeah, who hell? Someone's organised it. It's really good, and also your television friend in Ireland.
Yes.
Sarah Mangan.
Laura Mangan.
No,
wait, why
this is going
Jane
really
Mangan.
well. Jane Mangan. Okay.
I'm having a mental blank. Yeah, Jane.
And so do come and join us for that. If you're a member of Old Gold Racing, there's no charge. If you're not, and you probably all are because you're here, it's a £5. It's probably the most star-studded, although I scrape around and remember the names, but a lot of people are doing previews. Ours is the best, which is really good news.
Does Evan have to pay to?
Evan has, no, because he's very much part of the family.
He hasn't quite made the panel this year, but maybe.
I think, no, but we're grilling him here.
Oh, okay.
And that'll make you be able to ask lots of, to ask Paul Nichols some really awkward questions.
Right.
That's
okay.
Good.
Excellent.
And then, but we are coming, a stable visit on Thursday, March the 24th, to Evan Williams Racing. We're going to come down to South Wales. It's a beautiful part of the country, and we can't wait for that because we haven't done that yet. We obviously had to wait till Henry Box Brown was sound and able to be seen, and the rest of it. So that's, I think, the first that we've heard of that. So one for the diaries, everyone. We very much look forward to seeing you on Thursday, March the 24th. On that happy note, I've got to go and cook dinner for these people. So it's a chicken. So make sure she talks slowly, or it's going to be raw chicken.
I was going to say, what's on the menu? Tell everyone.
On the menu, well, it was going. Yeah, it's going. We're having wild sockeye smoked salmon with king prawns, which it was going to be different, but Turner's in Shipson closed at the wrong time. They were shut, so I had to go to Stratford. And then we are having spatchcock chicken with some brown rice, which is flavoured with a number of herbs, which I've been preparing this afternoon, and some curly kale with little cubes of bacon from outdoor kept pigs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, I see a kind of.
I don't know what you lot are having, but that's what I'm having.
But do you know what we have got? It's quite a kind of exact schedule running order that Hannah has put together, and I think you've overrun your time.
Right, I'm going to go and cook. I'll see you guys on the other side.
If you go and cook, that would be great. Thanks, Ed. Hi, Evan. And also,
how are you?
Everybody at home. It's really nice, people writing little messages here saying hello and where they're tuning in from. But I'm very happy to be having this chat with you, because I've got to say, other than knowing you as a very good horse trainer and seemingly a very likable guy from what I've seen on telly, I don't know you at all. And I've got to say, from a little Google search, I didn't get a huge amount either. So I think this is a really good opportunity to get to know you, and for all the Old Gold members and all the people in Henry Box Brown to get to know you a bit better. So I think we should start right from the beginning. Tell me about how you got into horses. Was it very much a family association, and about your upbringing?
Yeah, very much a family thing, really. Ponies as a child, and my parents both rode in Point of Points, and we were brought up on a dairy farm and whisked off to the Point of Points every weekend to watch. Well, mother, I can remember riding. Father used to ride and used to have all these ideas about what should be done and what shouldn't be done, type of thing. And it just gets in your brain as a youngster. And really went from there, then started to ride in Point of Points as I got a bit older, and eventually started training a few Point of Pointers, and then took the plunge to get a license and have a go as a professional.
That's really interesting, because I think a lot of people who grow up with very horsey parents either seem to love it, I know I did, or they seem to hate it. My little boy won't go anywhere near a horse, but did you always love it from the start?
I was always very keen on animals, even if it was, dairy cows. I was always very passionate about them as a youngster. Probably went off ponies really, like boys do, and probably was more involved then playing rugby and things like that. But as soon as I got into my late teens, then I started following racing, very interested in trainers, sort of like Arthur Stevenson up north, and Peter Easterby and Mary Reevely. For some reason, loved all their connection because they were sort of farmers as well. And then started riding in Point of Points, and sort of, that's the direction I went as I got into my late teens.
I also read somewhere that you ended up training somewhat accidentally. Is that right?
Yeah, I was never really thinking about it until we started getting going with the Point of Pointers, and they started to overtake the sort of farming side of it. And I can't pretend it was ever a plan, really. It was just sort of how the old wheel of life goes sometimes.
So transitioning from jockey to trainer, was that smooth?
Well, it was really, because I was only, riding in Point of Points and what have you. So I was always fat and a bit wild. So when I had a pile of nice young lads sort of to take over the mantle, I was quick to get them doing the dangerous part, and I sort of stood on the sidelines.
And what were your aspirations then when you started? How far did you think you could go?
Look, we just wanted to survive. I know it sounds awfully corny, but there was never any great aspirations or plans. It was really just hoping to survive and be able to do something that we thoroughly enjoyed.
So when you say survive, like from a financial perspective, was it difficult in the early days? I mean, I know your place is called Finger Post Farm. Did you buy that yourself, or how did that all happen?
Yeah. Well, it was all, just to survive financially, really, because we started on a tenanted dairy farm across the way from where we are now. I still rent that, but we had to, as we started to get more and more horses and got more and more success, we either had to move, which I didn't want to do. I was very, very passionate to try and survive training from where we were in this area, because everybody said that it couldn't be done. And I managed to buy a little piece of land across the road, and then I got a little bit more connected to it then as the years went by, and it just grew very quietly from there. We were able to build a completely new training establishment.
Just to pick up on that, why did everyone say it couldn't be done from there? Is it too remote, too far away from everything?
Well, I just suppose there was a little bit, there was only a very small number of people training successfully from Wales, and it was always that little bit of a not a stigma as such, but it was always said that it was easier to do it sort of towards the middle of the country, and they were probably right. But I mean, since we've been training, the ease to get to this part of the world has changed. The roads are better, and I mean, the new Severn Bridge came, and they stopped the toll, which was, a bit of a barrier to a lot of people. So it's just become more accessible. And then, of course, Ffos came. And so people had to go past us to get to a racecourse in Wales. And that was a psychological boost, really. It meant that people would come into Wales and they realized that we weren't on the end of the world. And, it did make a big difference.
I'm always fascinated in the logistics, because it's right to say, isn't it, that you've trained a winner at every national hunt course in the country. But that aside, even just the day-to-day getting horses places, it must be a massive logistical thing. Like, are you doing it all with your own lorries? Are you teaming up with other trainers? Are you using transport companies? And how many miles are these horses covering on a kind of average race day?
Well, we do it all ourselves. I mean, for people who don't know, we're based right next to Cardiff, Wales Airport. So we're right on the main road and straight on the motorway, which is a big help. All our own wagons, all our own staff. We never share lifts. And the reality is, you get up early in the morning, we travel everywhere within England and Wales on the day of the race, and we only overnight if we go to Scotland. So it's only Ayr and Perth and Kelso which we would overnight. So everything else, because we're so handy for the motorway and the main roads, we're basically straight on the main road. And as long as you're up in the morning and you're careful with the timing, it's very, very easy to transport horses in this modern age.
Okay, and in your experience, sending them on the day is better than overnighting them, because they are in their own environment for as long as possible, and then it's really a question of getting on the motorway and they can just zone out in the lorry and it doesn't take much out of them.
Yeah, it's that's the reality. We found that it's a lot easier to do that than to overnight and to upset them that way.
Okay, it's good we're getting questions in from people tuning in, but I think we might save the questions for... Oh wait, this one's quite relevant now. Jarrett, so Jarrett's question: allowing for the obvious considerations around the logistics of travel from Wales, do you have any courses you prefer to send your horses to, and also any you prefer not to? It's a slightly loaded question because my local track is Plumpton, and I think you have only had around a dozen runners there in the last 3 years.
Well, you've always got your favourites, because you know the closer to home, really, that's where you tend to do your most winning, because you obviously have more runners there. But Plumpton's a track that we always used to go a lot to. It's quite a tight track, and we often find that the horse we've got now isn't really suited to it. In the old days, when we had a lot sharper type of horse, a smaller type of horse, we'd go there quite often. So I don't care where we go. I'll go anywhere. If the track suits the horse, we'll go there.
Again, that's interesting. The type of horse you have has changed from a smaller, sharper kind of horse to what, bigger, longer, rangier staying types?
Yeah, definitely. When we started, we done a lot on the summer jump circuit, because that was the type of horse that we had, and that was the type of horse that we wanted to get winners on the board, and the faster ground horses and the nippier type of horse was where we started. But as we've got progressed, you know, we've got bigger, slower, you know, more staying type of horse for the better prizes during the winter months when the ground is slower.
What would you say you're best known for? Is it improving horses from other places? Is it stayers? Is it, what is it? What's your niche?
I don't know. Being Welsh, probably.
Lots of laughs around here. Being Welsh, and proudly Welsh, I would imagine. Do you speak Welsh? What is it?
No, I don't speak Welsh. No.
You don't?
No.
Okay. I'm also really interested in the whole family dynamic, because from what I've read and from what I've seen, it does seem to be a massive family operation. It's you and your wife, Catherine, correct? And then 3 kids?
Yeah, 3 kids, William, Isabel and Eleanor, yes.
Everyone's involved?
They are involved, yeah, they are. And it's quite funny, really, the way it's all developed. You know, it's funny when you start out, you don't know what the children are going to do you? You know, they do their own thing quietly. And as it's developed, I don't think the place would really have developed in the way it has done without their help, assistance and guidance in a lot of ways. And I know for a fact that as it's gone and as it's going, they're going to have a huge effect on the direction we go in the future.
Is that quite weird? Like, I've only got a 5-year-old and one on the way, but suddenly when your kids go from being like kids to kind of grown-ups, so you actually have to listen to their opinion, and they probably have better ideas than you.
Yeah, it is I found it very difficult. And I found it very difficult, really. I sound silly, because they have more modern idea. You realize how far behind you are. You know, there's a time when you're a parent and you're sort of there with little babies, and then there's a time when you're a parent and they're guiding you, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Trying to get you up to speed with the modern world and what have you. So it is hard. I can't pretend it's easy, but the rewards are massive.
So tell me, who does what in the family dynamic?
William and Catherine run the office, and Isabel and Eleanor are outside with me.
Okay, and they're both both have licenses now, don't they?
Yeah, Ellie she's done the university, and she's riding as an amateur, and Isabel didn't go to university, and she's got a conditional license.
And what's it like watching them ride?
I don't find it easy. I find it very, very tough. It's a tough watch. I find it very nervous. I'm very nervous at the best of times, but I do find it particularly nervous when they're riding, yes.
Is it because you're worried about their safety, or is it because you're like my mum when I used to ride in the odd amateur race, and she goes, no, I'm not worried about you falling off, darling. I'm just worried you're going to stuff it up.
And I worry a lot about whether I got them on the right horse in the right race, and I worry. Yes, I do worry about them getting hurt, and it's strange because I can watch Will play rugby and haven't got a worry in the world with lads, you know. And I would have thought that I'm probably very old-fashioned and I don't worry about lads doing any type of physical activity, you know. But it does worry me with the girls, yes. Because
they're obviously more they're precious because they're your daughters, or you worry generally about the female sex with the dangers of horses?
I don't know. I worry about it. I don't like seeing anybody have a bump, but I suppose, look, when it's your flesh and blood, it does worry you. When you're a father with daughters, it's different. Do you know what I mean? It does feel different anyway. But I wouldn't want to see any girl have a bump. You know, it worries me any girl having a bump, which is wrong, because at the end of the day, you know, they're brilliant, and I get a great thrill out of seeing all these girls riding winners, but it does worry me. And
is it, I imagine things have changed sufficiently these days that when you suggest to your owners that one of your daughters rides the horses, it's fine, or is there still a bit of a male-female thing there?
No, I don't think it matters. I really, in fact, I'd go as far as saying is that there is a good deal of people who think, you know, that certain horses suit a girl. And there's no doubting that some girls can get a tune out of a horse that lads won't get a tune out of, you know. And I do think that the racing professionals and the racing public as a whole understand that and fully support it. And what's it like? Do you all live together? Well, we sort of live, Catherine and I live in a house, and the girls live in a little house about 20 yards away, but William sneaked down the village because I think his best keeps out of the way of his mother, because he has a few visitors and his mummy doesn't want to know about them. And I imagine the girls are separate, maybe for similar reasons. Hopefully that's the reason. But what's it like around maybe less so nowadays, but growing up, like around the breakfast table, around the dinner table, are the conversations like always about the horses and what's going on in the yard, and does it get quite heated ever? Yeah, it does. Yeah. I think the great thing about it is both the positive and the negative, is that, you know, you can speak your mind, but with that comes a lot of disagreements and a lot of shouting and a lot of, you know, heated debate. But at the end of the day, that's what it's got to be, doesn't it? You know, in any sport, in any team, in anything like that, you can't hide your feelings, you can't hide what you feel. So it's quite refreshing, really, sometimes, that you can air your differences, air your views, and come to a good decision. But I guess at the end of the day, there can only be one trainer. So do you find yourself having to kind of listen and take things in and then be the one to kind of make the decisions? Well, I listen to everybody's argument and then do what I was going to do anyway. I like it. That's great. So I guess we should probably talk about more horses specifically. We'll get on to Henry Box Brown, but just for everyone to get their notebooks out at home with the big festivals on the horizon, fill me in on your team for Cheltenham. Well, we won't have many runners. Old Cool Cody, because he does run so many good races around there, he'll end up going to the probably to the chase, the 2.5 mile handicap chase, but he will have an entry in the Martin Pipe Conditional Jockeys Hurdle. Isabel was second there in the autumn, and that form has worked out very well. So he'll go there. Don Levant will be entered in a couple of the handicap hurdles, the Coral Cup and probably the Martin Pipe race. I wouldn't have thought we'd have too much there. There's a horse called Coconut Splash will probably get entered in the 2.5 mile handicap chase there as well. And Secret Reprieve will probably get an entry in the Ultima, although I'd be pretty keen to run him on Saturday in the Grand National trial. I don't think he'll get into the National itself this year, but there's so many horses coming out of that race already. I mean, you know, the Jigginstown boys are going to be sparsely presented in that race, so that old race could change a good bit now in the coming weeks. So we've a few bits and bobs to go.
And just talk to me about the National quickly, because you've had some good results without winning it, right? How many runners total?
Oh, geez, I don't know how many runners, Francesca, but we've had more placed horses in there. I probably got the worst record in the Grand National best.
But a good record in terms of like...
Yeah, we're good at getting them round and we're good at getting them placed, but yeah, it'd be nice to get the number one spot one day. Is
it the race that would kind of make your career as a trainer, or?
I don't know. I mean, the race I always wanted to win. I mean, the race that I just sort of hinged my life on was the Welsh National, really. And that, for some, I mean, it's not the biggest race we've ever won by a long way, but it was the race which I was just so passionate to try and win it. And so we were lucky enough to do that. But there's no doubt in it, the Grand National is the race I would like to win. Yeah, I'd love to have a Gold Cup horse.
I was going to say, so Gold Cup or Grand National, which, if you had to choose one?
I'd prefer to win the Grand National, Francesca.
Would you? Okay, because I feel like more people say Gold Cup than Grand National.
Yeah, but to some extent, it's the whole thing about the Grand National that sort of intrigues me. And the reality is we've come so close to winning it in the past, it's sort of an itch that you want to scratch all the time, you know?
I suppose it's the race that really resonates with the public wider than just our racing circles. I mean, I know Cheltenham's big, but the Grand National is like on a whole nother scale, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the thing about the Grand National, it is the sort of romance of it all as well. It is worldwide, and it's just, I don't know. There's something about the National, I think.
Even these days, since it's been...
Yeah, really. I think so. It's still the Grand National. I think Aintree have done a great job, really. I mean, keeping it up to, you know, the modern world, as it were. So I'd like to be a dinosaur and say it was better back in the day, but everything's got to move on to some extent, doesn't it?
Oh gosh, don't. I get enough of that from AP McCoy. Every time the National rolls around, oh, it's not the same as when in my day. In my day, they were proper fence. Can't compare Red Rum and Tiger Roll. It's just not the same.
No, but I just think it's, look, I just think it's look, sometimes certain races catch your imagination, and it's always caught my imagination.
And other runners at Aintree, is it too early to say at this stage? You might.
Yeah, probably too early to say, but you know, we always like to take a good few horses up. There's been very lucky track for us over the years. You know, we've had some great results up there, and it all depends on how the ground is riding. But the ground can often dry, and it can be a great place to go with a horse that's probably been looking for a bit of spring ground. You know, we run a nice horse called Anne Sam there in a couple of weeks' time in Kempton, and could be a place tailor-made for him. Flat track, nice bit of ground. So we always take a handful of horses up there, Francesca, and it has been a lucky place for us over the years.
And it's a great vibe as well, isn't it, as a race course to go to over the National? Yeah,
well, I mean, the people make it, you know, it is a great place to go, and it's great to go to the Ladies' Day and try and play Spot the Lady, because there's not too many ladies dancing around.
Oh my goodness, I'm always there dressed in kind of 5 layers, and then there's girls in these kind of like shimmery slip dresses. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's great for anyone to go, and anybody who wants to go racing. It's a great vibe to go up there.
Yeah, it sure is. Right, so let's get on to Henry Box Brown. How's he doing?
Well, he's very good, really. I mean, it's been well documented that he had the operation. We had to put a screw into, for layman's terms, really, it would be sort of in your forearm, as it were, you know. That was a great success. He's obviously got a great constitution. And everybody's seen the videos that we posted. He's been schooling and he's been working, worked on Tuesday, very, very happily with that. And my aim is to get to Stratford there the day before the Cheltenham Festival. It'd be a great place to start him. I'm very, very happy with him. And I think there's plenty of sport to be had with him now when we get into the spring.
Yeah, because as unfortunate as the break was, just explain a bit, because in horse terms, whilst it sounds terrible, a broken leg, they can actually be fixed quite easily and brought back to full health almost more easily than a ligament or soft tissue damage.
Yeah, well, that's the truth of the matter. We were just very, very lucky. It was, I suppose, the best. It's sort of a hairline, very simple fracture. It was almost perfect. You could see it right down the X-ray, almost perfect, like you drew it with a ruler. And it was very stable. And the vets in Newmarket done a brilliant job. They'd done it actually standing up. So that was fantastic. And his rehab went well. You know, he was a great patient. And it'll be as good as new, you know. It's much better than having a tendon injury or anything like that. And I think probably in a strange way, he's only a young horse, and you know, he would have had a hard time in Ireland getting ready over there, you know, as a baby. And it's probably a benefit to him somewhere down the line, just that little bit of time. And
from what you saw in the limited time before that and what you've seen since, how much can you gauge in terms of his ability?
He's a nice horse. His form in Ireland showed us enough that he's a tough little horse. He can be keen, he can be quite free going. He wore a hood in his work and in the race in Ireland. And that he is a bit over enthusiastic if you had to give a negative, but you get a flight of hurdles in front of him, he's brilliant. He settles and looks, and as far as his ability is concerned, he'll definitely be winning a maiden hurdle in the spring, definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to join you for a question, Evan.
Okay.
Because Paul Chu has asked, will you use a headgear in the UK, given that you were saying that he was nervy nature? No, I have no issues with that. He reminds me very, to give everybody an idea, he reminds me very similar of a horse called How Hard You Like Me Now, who ran on the same track.
What?
How Hard You Like Me Now. He's been a horse that's been progressive this year. I think he's won 3 races for us, and he's similar, very similar type. Doesn't need any headgear in Britain.
Okay. Well, there are a few more questions about Henry Box Brown. Do you want me to ask you them now, or do you want
to? Go for it. You've got the question.
So
there.
Michelle Reed would like to know, will Henry Box Brown be racing at Wincanton, her local track? And would you put Isabel on him?
I wouldn't put Isabel on him first time. No, I'd put Wedgie on him, Adam Wedge. And he could be too strong for a girl. And would he go to Wincanton? I can't see why he wouldn't go to Wincanton.
Too strong for a girl. No, sorry, carry on. Would he go to Wincanton?
Yeah, I can't see why it wouldn't suit him.
He'd like that track. Actually, going on to that question about Adam, putting him on, Thomas Morris would ask, do Isabel and Adam, your stable jockey, argue about who gets the ride on which horses?
No.
Who has to say?
Me.
Simon asks, being dad to Isabel, do you worry about putting her up on novice chasers?
I do worry. I worry because I'm a big believer that she suits certain horses. And that's not as a father, that's as a trainer. So I do think that sometimes, you know, jockeys suit horses, and that's what we try to do, match the jockey with the horse.
Okay, and the other reasons, the other questions about Henry Box Brown, and then I'll let Francesca take up. Mark Briscoe said, for what reason would you not run Henry Box Brown, say, in March?
He'll run. If everything goes as it's going now, we will run. I wouldn't want to run him on if the ground got very fast, only because, you know, he's had that injury, and I wouldn't run him on fast ground. But they do a great job everywhere now with the ground.
And Andy Craig says, given his injury, will he be able to show his true potential, or will the injury continue to affect him or have some impact?
No, it won't affect him. To give an insight into that operation and injury, a great horse of ours called Bywise had exactly the same treatment. And I mean, he was a star. He raced and raced and raced in all the top races until he was, I think, 11 years of age. So no, I'd have no worry about the treatment this fella's had at all.
The screws stay in, don't they?
Yeah, they'll stay in. It's you know, it's so good this day and age, you know, they'll stay in and it won't have any effect on him.
Yeah, I mean, Lady Bowthorpe, you know, who was running on the flat this summer, won the Nassau. She's got 5 screws in her leg and a plate, I think, from a break as a youngster, and didn't stop her. Yeah,
we you know, as long as it's caught early and treated properly, then there shouldn't be any worry about anything.
A couple more questions also. I think someone missed the answer about your Aintree horses. I've now lost. Can you ask him to repeat the horse for Aintree, as I missed it?
Was it? Did I say Ansam might go there? I thought Ansam might be suited to the track there if he goes well in Kempton now in a couple of weeks' time.
And Secret Reprieve might get into the national yet, if enough.
If he will keep him in through all the stages, it would be nice to get a run if we could.
He'd have a nice weight, would he? If he gets in.
He's got 9.9 in the long handicap, but we already know that the top horse or two is coming out, so fingers crossed it would be 10 stone.
Am I allowed to ask him what he makes of the Tiger Roll? O'Leary.
Yeah.
O'Leary. What do you make of that? The O'Leary's reaction to Tiger Roll weight?
Well, we does the industry really need to hear, you know, things about somebody's opinion about the weight of a horse? You know, if they're not going to run the horse, don't run the horse. But you don't have to throw your toys out of the pram about it, do you? You know,
I think the worst thing is, you say, does the industry need to hear? I think the worst thing is that it's kind of gone further than the industry, and now it's been picked up wider, and people talking about it as a welfare issue. Whereas
it was very poorly written, wasn't it? The statement was very poorly presented, I thought.
And you're right. It's unnecessary, wasn't it? There was a few more.
We've got some questions, Evan, about general questions. First of all, from Gavin Fraser, how do you source your horses? Sales, from contacts?
Everywhere really. I like to buy horses ourselves. We don't use agents on the whole. We have had a couple with agents over the years, but 95% of the horses we'd buy ourselves. Sales, Doncaster, Cheltenham. We buy a lot of store horses in the Irish sales, in Tassels and in Goffs in Ireland. But we get horses from everywhere. We get horses then privately from contacts in Ireland. I'm very, very slow with the French horses. I don't do particularly well with them.
Why?
I don't know. But our record with French horses is particularly poor, and our record with Irish horses and English horses is particularly good. So I don't know why. I wish I did.
And as a more broad question, Cheltenham this year, do you think it's going to be similar to last year in terms of the Irish versus English tally, or do you think it could be worse for us? Or
I think Ireland has got such a strong hand, and to some extent, I think we should embrace it. I don't really agree with this thinking it's a big deal, really. You know, I think we should embrace it and enjoy the good horses that they've got and enjoy the good horses they bring over. And, you know, the Brits will soon get their fair share of the best horses. I thought Edward Stone was brilliant the other day, and I think he'll take a fair bit of beating in the Arkle. And it's just the way it goes. It's just swings and roundabouts, and let's just embrace good horses, and then, you know, forget about sort of making it a competition between England an island. I just think it takes away something. I think I don't think it should be about that.
It's a very good way to look at it. But do you worry that the trend is going to continue, and because they're getting the results, they're going to get more of the good horses, and there's going to be a bit of a drain in England? And why is it also, I keep hearing, oh, well, all these small fields and these good races, it's because there just aren't enough good horses. Is it literally just that they're all in Ireland?
It's always been like it. You look down through the years, all of those graded races. I remember you watch Arkle winning the Gold Cup. There was only half a dozen in the Gold Cup one year because Arkle was around. That was in the 60s. I think sometimes people have short memories, and it'll all work itself out. But you know, embrace it, embrace good horses, embrace watching good racing. And I think sometimes we delve into statistics too much.
Can I ask you, Evan, is your sister Helen, is she based in Ireland?
Yeah, Helen's in Ireland, in Waterford.
So does she find you some nice horses?
Sometimes, yes. I mean, you know, we've had some nice horses. We had a very nice horse called the Fritta's Dream off Helen Walter. He won a listed race for us. He was a smashing little horse, won us loads and loads of races. So yeah, we have had some nice horses off her, and she has pointed us in the direction of some nice horses.
We've got a few questions I have to ask you again from some of our owners. Anthony Carroll says, what's the yard's aim and dreams for the future? And he's asked that twice now, so we have to answer.
Yeah, our aims and dreams. Our aim is always to be continually successful. And I know that sounds a bit corny, but it's easier said than done. Continuity and consistency are two of the hardest things to achieve when you're training racehorses. And we like to try and train 50 winners every year. And we like to always have a couple of graded winners every year if we can. And that's what we try to do. And our aim for the future is to keep doing it year in, year out, and really to maintain as high a position up the table as we can.
And have you been achieving that, Evan? What's your best tally to date?
Our best tally of winners, I can't remember. I think it was about 92 or 93, but it was more important to us to improve the quality really, and try and always sort of find a nice horse for a good race. And I think that's more of a challenge. You know, Francesca said about the Brits getting hold of these good horses, and it's hard. It is very, very hard to get, you know, good horses like Cool Cody and Don Levant and Sam and Prime Venture, the old horse that won the, you know, that good race in Sandown there the other week. And it's hard to get them, it's hard to keep them, and it's hard to keep getting them. Is
it a money thing? You've got to have the bigger budgets to go to the sales in a better position.
It's easy to say that, but can almost be it can stop you looking at a bargain basement horse. And a lot of the very good horses we've had haven't been the most expensive horses we've bought. I bought a grade 1 winner called Sunray for 700 guineas. Won a grade 1. So what I'm saying is, it's very easy to blame money. And it is a massive factor, don't get me wrong. It puts things more in your way if you've got a big pot, but can also cloud your judgment. It can stop you looking at certain horses in sales. And a good racehorse doesn't know how much he cost. So you've got to be very, very, very careful. A man in my position, thinking that money is the only excuse. It's not. And that's why Catherine and I do all the sales ourselves, because that way I'll buy a trainer's horse, not an agent's horse or a horse to sell on. I'll buy a horse to race. You know, I buy horses to race, not to resale.
And your main criteria, is it looks, is it conformation, is it pedigree, is it performance? What is it?
What is it? I don't know.
Feel.
Well, I suppose your pocket, it will definitely tell you where you are. I mean, a lot of horses I won't look at because I know I can't afford them. So your eye will be your guy. You know, you'll judge it with your eye, and gut reaction is a big thing. You know, sometimes your gut tells you something and you take a punt. It's all a feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Evan, can I ask you, Catherine Wood would like to know, how many horses do you currently train?
80. We have 80 for the winter season. And the summers were we only have about 10 or 12 for the summer. But for the winter season, we have 80.
And Tom Faulkner, who I believe used to ride, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he's an Old Gold owner, and he would like to know, what type of horse do you look for now? Is it more chasing type? And do you have better quality horses than compared to, say, 5 years ago?
I would say every year we try to have a better type of horse, but that's not always the case. You go through a few dips and peaks, with quality. I think I've always tried to find value. That's the first thing I've always tried to do, is buy value. And there's no doubt in that I've always had more of a staying type of horse. There's no doubt in that. And as I've got older, I've been basically trying to win a Welsh National, and you need a very slow horse to do that. So that's the reality. I've spent 20 years buying slow horses to win a Welsh National, probably.
Well, hopefully Henry Box Brown is not a slow horse. Philip would like to know, what do you see as Henry's best trip?
I will start him off at 2 Mile. He's not a slow horse. He's a sharp horse. Start him off at 2 Mile.
And the other question is, how do you rate him? He looks powerful. This is from Jacqueline. She was asking, he looks powerful. Is the idea he will progress to fences?
I would say he'll jump a fence one day, but he'll start over hurdles. I've got no doubt he'll start in maiden hurdles now in March.
Okay, that's my question so far.
And I'm actually interested on a more broader point. If you're switching a horse from, say they've been over hurdles and they go over fences, and then you think, well, I might just run them over hurdles again. How much training does that take? Do you have to kind of then train them over hurdles at home, or once they can jump, they can jump?
Well, that's quite a good question, really, because it's something that we do quite a lot. When a horse progresses and then goes back over hurdles, sometimes it's because you try to change their point of view. You might have a race in mind further down the line, and you use hurdles as a prep run. I'm a big believer that they are completely different disciplines. And just because a horse jumps a hurdle well, doesn't mean they'll jump a fence well. A lot of it is trial and error. And you can sometimes go back. There's a horse of ours that won beginning of this week, Can You Call? He's gone and won his novice chase, but I think he'll go back over hurdles at some stage, because I just think that he'll be a stronger horse back over hurdles as a novice, and he could go and win a few novice hurdles. So sometimes you can change direction mid sort of lifespan of a horse, because you just think that they'll be more adaptable than they were when they were younger, and it can keep them fresh. A little change of discipline, change is as good as the rest.
And distance, like if they run 2.5 miles over fences, do they then go back to 2.5 miles over hurdles, or do you change up?
Chop and change a bit. You can chop and change. I'm never scared to chop and change. I like to run a horse, especially a staying horse, that you might, again, have a long-term prospect. A Grand National horse now, great to run them over hurdles, over a sharper distance, a drop in distance to sharpen them up. That can sometimes work.
How do you learn this, Evan? How do you know to apply that?
Well, trial and error. You get it wrong more than you get it right. And I think you can't be scared to get it wrong. So you try these things, and, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then a bit of gut reaction. Sometimes you get a bit of an inkling towards what a horse can and cannot do. And sometimes you just roll the dice. Sometimes you just say, right, sometimes the races don't fall right for you, but you need to run them.
Can I ask you, is there somebody in horse racing that you've looked at and go, oh my God, they're amazing, or I want to copy that tactic or that sort of yard facility they've got?
Yeah, Arthur Stevenson was always the man. Like, nobody will have heard of him now because he's from a distant age, but he, to me, was a mighty hero of mine. And for some reason, I just followed him from when I was very young, 12 or 13. And, he was a master trainer. And
where was he based?
He was based up in a place called Leasingthorpe, which is up in County Durham. And he was the winning most trainer before Martin Pipe beat his record. And he was a bit of a dealer and a farmer, and he was a genius. He won the Gold Cup with a horse called the Thinker. He was just a brilliant man, and trained under the radar, really, if you look at the modern world, but done it his own way.
We've got a few more questions, and just quickly back to Henry. In terms of tactics, when he does run, will he make the running? What's the plan tactically?
I've got a very easy way of sorting things like that. I train them and Wedgie rides them.
Okay, so no input into the tactics. He's allowed to do his own thing.
Look, Adam, I have so much faith in Adam, and sometimes Adam makes the running, sometimes he doesn't, sometimes he drops them in. So I think sometimes you just got to have faith in your stable jockey.
How do you go about finding your stable jockey? Because obviously Adam replaced, was it Paul beforehand?
Yeah.
So how do you go about sort of getting the next model in?
It's hard, really. That's hard, because sometimes they've got to fit you a little bit. Adam came here as a £7 claimer, as a £7 claiming amateur, and I had no, at the time he was just a good raw lad, but he's very professional, and just progressed. And Paul came to us. He came over from Ireland. He was champion amateur in Ireland, and he came over, and he was based up in Newmarket there with Barney Curley, and he was having a bit of bad luck with injuries, and I was only just getting going, and I needed Paul, and Paul needed me, and we sort of gelled together, and had a very good working relationship. So how do you find them? I don't know. It's like everything. People find each other, don't they? I don't know.
Well, we've got a question here from Steve Robinson, going from jockeys to horses. Who do you consider the best horse you have trained?
Well, the best horse on ratings that we trained was probably State to Play and Deep Purple. They were the two highest rated, I think I'm right in saying. Silver Streak was very highly rated. I think Deep Purple was the highest rated horse that we ever trained. He won the Peterborough Chase, beating Alberta's Run, gave it weight, and beat it by 10 lengths on the bridle. And I'd say that horse that day was just unbeatable. He was very, very good horse on his day.
Well, I'm going to talk about one horse. I'll put you two back talking about one horse. Witchwood Brook, which
Exactly,
you guys
yes,
took team chasing. So I'll leave you to talk about that.
Yeah, it was a while ago now, wasn't it? Because he's 15, I think, Richard Brook, who I've had the pleasure of taking team chasing. But what was he like to train?
He's a great horse. Yeah. Well, the worst thing was I rode his dam to win around Cheltenham. So that shows how old I am.
No way.
Yeah, he was a smashing horse, and he won the Peter Marsh. Connor Ring rode him that day, 9 stone 7, £7 claimer. A very brave horse, very, very genuine horse. Loved that deep ground, and had his own way of getting from A to B, like his mother. But Ringo was brilliant on him that day. Absolutely fabulous ride from a £7 claimer, and very brave, and just a very, very genuine horse.
And Francesca, what was he like over team chasing?
Oh, I mean, complete push button. I just put my hands on the neck and off he went. I didn't have to do anything. It was great. Why do you say he had his own way of getting from A to B? What was the
he was just, you'd had to leave him to it. If you left him to it, he was brilliant. And if you tried to interfere, he'd just get a bit low. But very genuine horse who would just work it out as he went along.
And he actually looked after me jumping the Grand National fences up at Lambourne, because we had a different horse lined up, and then that one fell through the morning of practically, and we had to wheel one out, and thankfully I got him.
To say, Evan, and for everybody listening there, this girl deserves serious credit, because there is no way in a month of Sundays I would have done what you did. And she got on this strange horse, jumped schooling fences, and it jumped like a cat. And I'm standing there going,
oh yeah, the hurdles.
it just going around the hurdles, and I was thinking, this is a disaster. The wind was blowing. These Grand National temporary fences, instead of being 6 foot, were like 10 foot. Even Richard Johnson was a bit nervous, and Francesca was there going, "Come on, then."
Well, until I saw the saddle that Paul Webber had put on it with the stirrups, with no like stirrup, you know, the rubber bit in the stirrup.
Yeah.
No, they weren't safety stirrups. They didn't have the rubber bit. I had leather boots on, and I was like, "Oh God!"
Oh God!
But he, like you say, great horse. He looked after me. He was quite steady. We took them quite slowly, but we got from A to B. In one piece.
Yeah, he always was a very, very, very kind, genuine, very nice horse.
Yeah, those big ears at Lobberway.
Yeah,
He just came fourth in the Golden Bottom, didn't he?
He came first in the under 21s.
First in the under 21s and fourth,
fifth overall.
fifth overall.
And that's part of like Old Gold Racing is really keen to have horses which retire have a second life. And very much support the BHA's campaign of a life well lived. So those which don't thrive in racing, Francesca and some of the Old Gold team have been really able to enjoy going team chasing. So it's been lovely to see.
Yeah, and they have so many different careers, don't they, post racing, and it's fun charting their progress, isn't it? Following them after they've gone.
It's great to have a part of that. It's great when somebody taps you on the shoulder and say, a horse that you trained is doing well at another discipline, and at least it shows that you taught them to do a good job, doesn't it? You know, you feel quite proud when you hear stories like that.
Yeah, and be a nice person as well, because
That's the main thing.
they've got a bad temperament, or they've kind of been put off in training, then they don't tend to go on, do they? We need to let you go soon, Evan. But what do you do to relax? Like, what do your evenings entail? Do you ever get to go on holiday, maybe?
I'm very, very boring, Francesca. I'm the most boring person in the world. I thoroughly enjoy what I do. I enjoy going on holidays, but I haven't been on holiday for a few years. I used to like going with the kids, but sitting opposite Kath by the side of a pool just isn't my thing, really.
Consulted her. Would she like to go on holiday?
She'd love. Yeah. I must take it away this year, and I keep a few cattle, do a bit of farming, and I'm lucky I do something I love. That's the main thing.
Okay, you hear that a lot, don't you? I interviewed Joseph O'Brien not long ago, and he said exactly the same thing. It's like, don't really want to be anywhere else or do anything else other than be with my horses and train them. So it is not just a job, but it's a lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Have you've come in? Have you got another announcement?
Yeah, dinner's finished. It's delicious. I really enjoyed it. Stink of garlic.
Because this last bit here, are you doing this?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Okay, great.
That's me. So I was just, firstly, Francesca, thank you so much. That's just it's wonderful. Hannah, brilliant. Thank you so much for doing that and picking up. Particularly Evan, thank you so much for your time this evening. It was, I mean, I was sitting in the corner over there trying not to cook, and it was so interesting. I mean, I just sort of wanted to sit there and be sort of part of the audience. Well, I was part of the audience, and it was fantastic. So thank you very much. I'm actually partially Welsh myself, in the sense that my birthday's on the 1st of March. So looking forward to all the Christmas cards or birthday cards. They can go with the Valentine's cards. One last thing, just to reiterate, so it's the 24th of March. We're doing a morning on the gallops with Evan, and obviously Evan, thanks so much for that, but please do email us if you want to come, or click the link on My Stables. We've also managed to get half price entry into Chepstow for anyone who'd like to go on. So for a tenner, you can stay in Wales and go racing, which I will be doing. That might put you all off, I suppose. But it would be absolutely great if you did all that. So do please email us. Apparently we'll get it in the update. It'll come in the update on Saturday. I'm being told through my earpiece.
Talking of the update on Saturday, Evan, have you got a tip for me on Saturday? Because I have to give my fancy every week, and I don't think I've picked a winner yet. So can you give us one?
We'll have one runner on Saturday, Secret Reprieve in the Grand National Trial in Haydock. He hasn't run since the Welsh National, which was his first run. He's favourite, and I'd be very disappointed if he doesn't run very, very well. The only negative is if it got very, very deep down there, it wouldn't play to his strengths, but he's in great form and he's got a favourites chance. I fancy him right now.
Great, thank you.
That's everyone's work done. Thank you very much indeed. Evan, thank you so much. Absolutely brilliant. Francesca, thank you so much. All
you.
the team with Old Gold Racing, thank you so much. We'll see you on the 24th of March, if not at Cheltenham and everywhere else before.
Brilliant job. Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.